Most people misunderstand attraction and human connection because they focus too much on spoken words and too little on what is actually being communicated beneath them. In reality, words are only a small part of how people understand each other. The deeper layer of communication happens silently, through behavior, tone, posture, and emotional presence. In everyday interactions, people are constantly sending and receiving signals without even realizing it. These signals reveal how comfortable, safe, or connected they feel in a given moment. What someone says can be controlled, edited, or even hidden, but their emotional state often leaks through their body language and subtle reactions. This is why two interactions that look similar on the surface can feel completely different in experience. One may feel easy, natural, and engaging, while another feels slightly distant or uncertain. The difference is not always in what is said, but in how it is felt. Most confusion in relationships and attraction comes from missing this invisible layer of communication. People try to interpret situations only through logic, when in reality, human connection is largely guided by emotional perception. The nervous system is always active in social settings, constantly evaluating whether a situation feels safe, relaxed, or tense. These evaluations happen instantly and shape how people respond to each other long before conscious thought takes over. Once you begin to understand this hidden language, you stop relying only on words and start noticing the real conversation happening underneath them. This awareness completely changes how you interpret interactions because you begin to see that connection is not spoken, it is felt. Human communication is far more than spoken language. In fact, a significant part of meaning is transmitted silently through nonverbal cues such as facial expressions, posture, eye contact, tone of voice, and overall physical presence. These signals often carry more emotional truth than words themselves. When two people interact, their subconscious minds begin processing each other immediately. Before a sentence is fully understood, the brain has already formed an impression based on behavior, energy, and emotional stability. This automatic process happens without conscious effort and plays a major role in shaping connection. This is why two people can say the same words but create completely different feelings in others. One may come across as calm and grounded, while the other feels uncertain or disconnected. The difference is not in the message itself, but in the emotional state behind it. Human beings are naturally sensitive to emotional consistency. We are constantly scanning for signals that indicate safety, honesty, and comfort. Even small changes in tone, pace, or body language can influence how a message is received. Because of this, communication is not just about expression, it is also about perception. How you are experienced matters just as much as what you intend to say. People respond more to how they feel in your presence than to the exact content of your words. Once you understand this, your focus begins to shift. Instead of trying to craft perfect sentences, you start becoming more aware of your presence, your emotional state, and the subtle signals you are sending without realizing it. Emotional safety is the foundation of all meaningful human interaction. Without it, connection remains superficial, unstable, or short-lived. People do not open up, engage deeply, or stay present with someone unless they feel emotionally secure in the interaction. This sense of safety is not created through words alone. It is communicated through tone, patience, consistency, and the overall emotional atmosphere a person brings into the interaction. When someone feels relaxed around another person, their behavior naturally becomes more open and expressive. When they feel uncertain or guarded, their body language reflects that distance. These responses are not conscious decisions. They are automatic reactions driven by the nervous system, which is constantly evaluating whether a situation feels comfortable or overwhelming. Because of this, emotional safety is felt instantly, even before it is logically understood. In social interactions, comfort signals appear in subtle ways. A relaxed posture, steady eye contact, natural flow of conversation, and ease in silence all indicate that a person feels at ease. On the other hand, stiffness, hesitation, reduced engagement, or physical distance can indicate discomfort or uncertainty. What is important to understand is that emotional safety cannot be forced. It develops gradually through consistent behavior that communicates respect, calmness, and stability. When people feel they are not being judged, rushed, or pressured, they naturally become more open. This is why strong communication is not about intensity, but about steadiness. A calm presence creates space for trust to grow, and once trust is present, connection becomes more natural, effortless, and genuine. Healthy human connection is built on one essential foundation: respect for personal boundaries. Every individual has an internal sense of comfort that defines how close they want to be, how quickly they want to open up, and how much emotional space they need in any interaction. These boundaries are not always spoken out loud, but they are always communicated through behavior. People express comfort or discomfort through subtle shifts in posture, engagement, tone, and responsiveness. Learning to recognize these signals is a key part of emotional awareness. Respecting boundaries is not about hesitation or fear, it is about understanding that trust develops gradually. When someone feels that their space is acknowledged and not rushed, they naturally begin to relax and engage more freely. When they feel pressure or imbalance, they instinctively withdraw to protect their emotional safety. This is why awareness matters more than assumption. Instead of trying to interpret every action in a fixed way, it is more important to observe patterns of comfort over time. Real connection is not built in a single moment, but through consistent experiences of safety and respect. A grounded approach to interaction focuses on mutual comfort rather than control or outcome. It allows both people to feel understood without forcing direction or expectation. This creates an environment where communication becomes more natural and less stressful. Ultimately, boundaries are not barriers to connection. They are the structure that makes healthy connection possible. When they are respected, trust deepens. When trust deepens, interaction becomes more open, stable, and meaningful for both individuals involved. Human connection does not develop instantly. It unfolds in layers, each one representing a deeper level of comfort, familiarity, and emotional trust. Understanding these layers helps explain why some interactions feel effortless over time, while others remain surface level, no matter how much effort is made. The first layer is basic social comfort. This is where two people are simply becoming acquainted. Interaction is polite, structured, and relatively neutral. At this stage, both individuals are observing each other, forming initial impressions, and deciding whether continued interaction feels comfortable. The second layer is familiarity. Here, communication begins to feel more natural. Conversations become longer, more relaxed, and slightly more personal. There is less formality, more ease, and a growing sense of recognition between both individuals. This is where rapport begins to form. The third layer is emotional openness. At this stage, people begin to share thoughts, experiences, and perspectives more honestly. There is less filtering in communication and a stronger sense of authenticity. Trust starts to develop, not because of any single moment, but because of repeated experiences of comfort. Each layer builds upon the previous one. If the foundation is weak, deeper connection becomes difficult to sustain. This is why rushing emotional development often leads to inconsistency or misunderstanding. Real connection cannot be accelerated beyond what comfort allows. It is also important to recognize that every person moves through these layers at a different pace. Personality, past experiences, and emotional readiness all influence how quickly someone opens up. Respecting this natural pace is essential for creating stable and meaningful interaction. When you approach connection with patience and awareness, you stop forcing progression and start allowing it. Instead of trying to reach a certain stage, you focus on maintaining consistency at the current one. Over time, this creates a natural transition into deeper levels of trust. Ultimately, strong connection is not about speed, it is about stability. And stability comes from respecting the process rather than trying to control it. Emotional regulation is one of the most important yet overlooked aspects of human interaction. It refers to the ability to remain calm, grounded, and internally stable, regardless of external pressure or uncertainty. In social situations, this internal stability directly influences how others perceive and respond to you. Human beings are highly sensitive to emotional states. Even without conscious awareness, people can detect tension, anxiety, impatience, or calmness in another person. These emotional signals shape the overall feeling of an interaction more than the actual words being spoken. When someone is emotionally regulated, their presence feels steady. Their communication becomes clearer, their tone more balanced, and their behavior more consistent. This creates a sense of reliability and comfort in others, which is essential for building trust. On the other hand, emotional instability can disrupt communication. Even if intentions are good, underlying tension or neediness can create subtle discomfort in the interaction. People may not always be able to explain why they feel this way, but they still respond to it. This is why presence is more powerful than performance. You do not need to overthink what to say or how to act. Instead, the focus should be on how grounded you are in yourself during the interaction. Simple practices such as controlled breathing, relaxed posture, and slowing down your responses can significantly improve emotional regulation. These small adjustments help reduce internal tension and create a more natural flow in communication. Ultimately, emotional regulation is not about controlling the other person. It is about managing your own internal state so that your presence becomes calm and stable. When that happens, interactions become more effortless and connection develops more naturally without force or pressure. One of the biggest challenges in human interaction is not a lack of communication, but misinterpretation of it. People often assume meaning from behavior without considering context, emotional state, or consistency over time. This leads to confusion, unrealistic expectations, and unnecessary emotional stress. A common mistake is interpreting politeness as deeper interest. In many social situations, people are simply being respectful, friendly, or socially aware. However, when emotional bias is present, these neutral behaviors are sometimes misunderstood as signs of stronger connection. Another frequent error is focusing on isolated moments instead of overall patterns. A single gesture or expression can feel meaningful in the moment, but true understanding comes from repeated behavior over time. Connection is not defined by one interaction, but by consistency across many interactions. People also tend to project their own emotions onto others. When someone feels hopeful or uncertain, they may interpret neutral signals in a way that matches their internal state rather than reality. This creates distortion in perception and leads to incorrect conclusions. Clear understanding requires emotional neutrality. Instead of trying to assign meaning immediately, it is more helpful to observe behavior without pressure or assumption. This allows patterns to become visible without being influenced by personal desire or expectation. Improving awareness in communication is not about becoming overly analytical. It is about becoming more grounded and observant. When you reduce emotional noise, you begin to see interactions more clearly. Ultimately, misreading signals is not a failure of intelligence, but a natural result of emotional involvement. With awareness and patience, this tendency can be reduced, leading to more accurate understanding of human behavior and connection. Genuine connection is not something that can be forced, predicted, or engineered through specific techniques. It develops naturally when two people experience a sense of ease, understanding, and emotional alignment in each other's presence. At the core of meaningful connection is presence. Presence means being fully engaged in the moment without distraction, performance, or internal pressure to achieve a specific outcome. When someone is truly present, they are able to listen more deeply, respond more naturally, and create a more comfortable environment for interaction. This kind of awareness shifts focus away from impressing others and toward understanding the quality of the interaction itself. Instead of thinking about what comes next, the attention stays grounded in how the moment feels right now. Authenticity is another key element of connection. People are naturally drawn to behavior that feels real and unforced. When there is no attempt to manipulate perception or control outcomes, interactions become more transparent and easier to trust. Connection also grows through listening, not just hearing words, but understanding meaning, emotion, and intention behind them. When a person feels truly understood, they become more open and engaged without effort. Equally important is emotional consistency. When someone remains steady in their behavior and mood, it creates a sense of reliability. This stability helps others feel more relaxed and secure in the interaction. Ultimately, genuine connection is not about doing more, but about being more aware. It is about creating space for interaction to unfold naturally, without pressure or expectation. When that space exists, connection becomes a shared experience rather than something that needs to be achieved. Real connection is not built through control, strategies, or attempts to influence outcomes. It is created through awareness, emotional stability, and genuine presence in the moment. When people feel safe, understood, and respected, interaction naturally becomes more open and effortless. Every conversation carries subtle information beyond words. It reflects comfort, trust, and emotional alignment between two individuals. When you learn to observe these signals without judgment or pressure, your understanding of people becomes clearer and more grounded. The goal is not to decode or manipulate behavior, but to engage with it honestly. When you stop forcing outcomes and start focusing on presence, communication becomes more natural. Ultimately, real connection is simple. It is about how people feel in each other's presence.